说，begin.
Hello everyone, I deliver a case of a hostile takeover between Baoneng and Wank today, and mainly focus on its background and timeline. Next. In 2015, Baoneng started its takeover by purchasing Wank's share violently in stock markets. Next. Wank has these features to be targeted: high quality assets and goodwill, the diversified share structure, and low stock price. Next. In 2015, takeover began. Wank reacted by suspension at the end of the year. Next. In 2016, Wank introduced the Shenzhen Metro and Evergrande to slow down the takeover. Next. In 2017, the takeover was frustrated, but Wang Shi, the originator of Wank, has to leave. Next. Next, my partner will talk about how hostile takeover affects corporate governance.
There is a reflection how hostile takeover could somehow affect retail. The directive on the corporate governance. Corporate structures can alter the cost of hostile takeover and hence affect the takeover process. Changes the shareholding structure, the dual class stock. The class offered to the general public often has limited or no voting rights, while the class available to the founders has more voting power and often provides for majority control of the company. At a corporate policy, portion peel, the term portion peel refers to the defense strategy used to pay the target farmer to prevent or discourage a potential hostile takeover by an acquiring company. There's a white knight. When the CEO makes the tender offer, but the management doesn't want to sell the company, management will invite a third-party buyer to build and place the price. The third-party buyer is the white knight. The summary in one is improve the articles of incorporation. Two is establish a reasonable shareholding structure like dual-class shareholding or gold partnership. When market value management makes the company more viable. Next. Okay.
Thanks for your brilliant demonstration. And now Tanya and Da will deliver the next part, which is compare and contrast how M&A activity performed in different economic downturn. Next. Well, every major economic crisis is unique. There are also some common characteristics that are often the same. First, let me introduce the situation in 2008. What began in 2007 as a subprime mortgage crisis is due to aggressive investments in financial derivatives. Then it evolved into a financial crisis in 2008. Even Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, then it acquired by other companies. Next. The source of crisis was the financial sector, but credit crunch and market deterioration impact many other sectors. It reflected on assets, asset value, house prices, and customer confidence, etc. Next. 2007, global M&A reached the peak point, which was up to $4.55 trillion in a decade. Global merger volume and dropped by almost a third in 2008. And in 5 years of deal growth as lack of available credits, plugging stock markets, and a worldwide financial crisis undermined the company ability to make acquisitions. Next. By 2008, no matter domestic or cross-border acquisition, smaller companies were frozen, and only few larger companies made their opportunistic acquisitions for consolidation and gaining the new market by acquiring with their core industries. For example, like InBev, Bank of America, and Roche Holding Switzerland. So that's how M&A activity performed in 2008. Here now is Tong Yu to talk about the M&A situation during the COVID-19. Next.
Thanks, Yitong. Thanks, Yitong. Now it's my turn to introduce the M&A activity under the COVID-19. Next. We all know that the COVID-19 has caused rising debt and a global recession. This crisis caused the majority of countries to fall into negative growth. Next. The pandemic has also greatly affected the situation of M&A transactions. Next. How does the epidemic affect mergers and acquisitions? The pandemic has led to stricter policies on M&A by regulators in various countries. At the same time, the company's production and operation were affected. The stock price fell. The buyers need to reevaluate the value of the company. The third point is that the epidemic has made on-site due diligence difficult and not conducive to M&A transactions. From the perspective of corporate, many companies have introduced relevant policies to prevent hostile takeovers. So all these factors lead to a decline in the number of M&A transactions. Next. From this chart, we can see that the COVID-19 in 2020 led to a decline in the number of M&A transactions, but a year later, the number of M&A transactions rebounded. Next. So what is the similarities and potential difference between these two crises? Next. We look at the similarities in terms of economic environment, stock price, and corporate behavior. We found that both crises caused external microeconomic changes affected the M&A, and the downturn in stock prices led to a rise in hostile takeovers. In a crisis situation, companies avoid big change and focus more on the survival in the short term. Next. The differences are mainly concentrated in the four aspects: background, scope, factor, and impact circle. The change in the number of M&A in 2020 is mainly due to the impact of the global pandemic. On-site due diligence were limited. Most industrial were affected by the COVID-19. And because the epidemic continues, the impact circle is longer than the financial crisis. So what is our conclusion? Next.
To sum up, in a typical M&A circle, deal volumes and value will initially decline in line with the economic downturn, often promoted by other events. But this time, how well the economic recovers is entirely depends on the pandemic, and which is unknown. And that's all of our topic. Let's welcome our next group member.
Next. For this question, our group thinks that gender diversity can affect M&A in different ways, and we will share 3 articles to support our idea. In the first article, the process of M&A can be divided into these 3 stages. The authors believe that gender diversity has a positive effect on the selection stage and a negative effect on the integration stage. Next. In selection stage, decisions are influenced by members' ability to scan the environment, network resources, and risk propensity. And the different TMT has a larger resources base and stronger information processing ability, which is conducive to identifying the potential targets. TMT gender diversity also suggests a larger network pool. In particular, women's networks include both gender groups and women-specific networks to access resources. In addition, females are more cautious about risk. It leads to different valuation of risk potential, which can improve the quality of decisions. Next. From the result of OLS regression model, we find that the coefficient of gender diversity is positive and significant, thus supporting the hypothesis 1. Next. In the integration stage, members need purposeful actions and clear decisions. It requires the control of time. Gender diversity is more likely to lead to this decentralization. It will increase decision-making time. Conflicting views and debates in the team can cause disruptions in the process, which leads slower decision being made. Next. Therefore, we have the hypothesis 2. Gender diversity has negative effect in integration stage. In model 4, we can find that the coefficient of gender diversity was negative and significant, which proves the hypothesis 2. And let's welcome my partner.
According to the paper of Director Gender and M&A shows that using close to 20,000 firm year observations for the period 1997 to 2009, We got hypothesis 1 and 2. Companies with more women directors are less acquisitive than those with fewer women directors. Next. The associations we find between director gender and M&A inundation and between director gender and bid premium are both consistent with the relatively low overconfidence of bidder female directors in the occurrence of takeover estimates and expected value of takeovers. Next. The panel A can explain the bid inundation is negative influence with the female directors number of fraction is minus 0.79. Next. Similarly, the number can explain negative association with the bid premium is minus 0.54. Next. The next paper, the reason why hypothesis 1 can be got is female directors increase board attendance, have better communication skills, and make more informed decisions, which helps them provide better control of organizational management and monitoring CEOs more effectively than their male. The hypothesis 2, we further find a large negative sign of the interaction term between BGD and M&A variables. Next. Higher number of M&A deals turns to reduce positive effect of gender diversity on dividend payouts. In conclusion, whatever female brings positive or negative influence, the boardroom gender diversity affects M&A. That's all. Thank you for your listening.